Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay Atenista, sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero, sugo, todo sa kayod, tulong at tulong. Lipad na Blue Eagle, galing hiding at tigil.
All Kaps, mga Atenista, it's time to level up! Your talk variety program showcasing the best in media and other fields. As we feature the most loved personalities and the best practices of what we truly refer to as Magis. Together with multi-awarded multimedia guru Mr. Noel Ferrer, let's all level up every Fridays from 3 to 6 p.m. here on Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM.
Toto'y makinig ka, huwag nang magpagabi. Makapagkamalan pa kumantusay dyan sa tabi. Toto'y alam mo ba kung ano ang punot dulo ng di matapos-tapos na kaguluhang ito? Hindi pula't dilaw ang tunay na magkalaban. Ang kulay at tatak ay di siyang dahilan. Hanggat marami ang lugmok sa kahirapan, at ang hustisya ay para lang sa mayaman. Habang may tapsulok at sila nasa tuktok, hindi matatapos itong gulo. Toto'y makinig ka, huwag nang magpagabi. Makapagkamalan pa kumantusay dyan sa tabi. Toto'y alam mo ba kung ano ang punot dulo ng di matapos-tapos na kaguluhang ito? Hindi pula't dilaw ang tunay na magkalaban. Ang kulay at tatak ay di siyang dahilan. Hanggat marami ang lugmok sa kahirapan, at ang hustisya ay para lang sa mayaman. Habang may tapsulok at sila nasa tuktok, hindi matatapos itong gulo. Toto'y makinig ka, huwag nang magpagabi. Makapagkamalan pa kumantusay dyan sa tabi. Toto'y alam mo ba kung ano ang punot dulo ng di matapos-tapos na kaguluhang ito? Hindi pula't dilaw ang tunay na magkalaban. Ang kulay at tatak ay di siyang dahilan. Hanggat marami ang lugmok sa kahirapan, at ang hustisya ay para lang sa mayaman. Habang may tapsulok at sila nasa tuktok, hindi matatapos itong gulo. Toto'y makinig ka, huwag nang magpagabi. dilaw ang tunay na magkalaban. Ang kulay at tatak ay di siyang dahilan. Hanggat marami ang lugmok sa kahirapan, at ang hustisya ay para lang sa mayaman. Habang may tapsulok at sila nasa tuktok, hindi matatapos itong gulo. To'y makinig ka.
All Kaps, mga kapamilya, kapuso, kapatid, kabarkada, mga katipuneros. It's time to level up with your host, multi-awarded multimedia guru Noel Ferrer, here on All Kaps, Ateneo Level Up.
Okay, all good, all ready, all the best. Level up sa ganap, level up sa saya, mas daring, mas naughty, mas edgy, I hope. And level up sa wawa, gusto natin bago mag-weekend. Meron tayong magandang baon para sa bakasyon. And as always, we shall level up in terms of relevance and goodwill. Lahat ng kulay, lahat ng opinion pwedeng palutangin. Today, I am truly honored to have as guest people I consider family. Sabi ko nga sa kanila, this is safe grounds. Because they can freely say what they want to say. And yes, it's their first time to be interviewed together, and I'm surprised. Friends, activists, then and now, and forever, I'm sure. Ma'am Carol Araullo and, of course, Atom Araullo here. Good afternoon. Magandang hapon po.
Magandang hapon sa iyo at sa lahat ng nakikinig.
O Atom, kumusta ka, Tomats? Buhay.
Oy, mama, kamusta ka na?
Hello, anak.
Nag-usap. So, yung arrangement niya talaga, ma'am. I know that, no? Parang Atom, since you're a senior citizen, ingat na ingat kasi siya, nasa trabaho siya, at baka, yun, ma-endanger. Paano yung arrangement niyo? How often kailangan ba mag-swab test bago pumunta sa bahay ninyo? Parang gano'n?
Hindi naman. Ako lang, sinusubukan ko lang na huwag masyadong magpunta doon ng hindi naman kinakailangan. Tsaka syempre may mga kanya-kanya kaming mga rules na ginagawa. Admittedly, in the past few months, para medyo naging lax na rin kami ng konti doon sa mga rules na yon. Dati medyo strict eh. Pero circulation ng hangin, so relatively safer than traditionally mga indoor households.
Okay. Ma'am, kayo po, how do you communicate with Atom now? Now na parang medyo seldom or parang maganda na lang nakikita nyo siya sa TV at sasabihin safe siya pag nakikita nyo siya doon, no?
Well, marunong ako mag-Viber.
Okay.
Then, syempre, the good old reliable text and phone call, binibigyan namin yung sarili namin ng pagkakataon na we will miss each other eh. Mahirap yung lagi nakikita.
Okay po. Pag nami-miss kayo ni Atom, nanlilibre po yan. So, okay po yan.
Really?
Parang nagulat yung mami mo na. Anyway, but una, I was surprised that when you both told me that it's your first time to be interviewed together. Why so? Was there never a chance, or ayaw nyo lang papag-usapan, or ayaw nyo magsama sa interview? What was that? There was never a chance for you to be interviewed. I remember, Atom, during our first talks, parang inisip namin, magandang documentary po actually yung parallel lives nyo bilang activists, di ba? Kasi ngayon, parang ibang konteksto, ibang generation. Hindi lang ba nagkakasabay po yan?
Ewan ko. Ma, anong tingin mo? Ikaw mauna.
I don't know. Maybe ikaw lang yata nakaisip ng ganyan.
Talaga?
One time I was interviewed for a magazine. Mother's Day yan. So I was interviewed, and then my daughter Sandra was also interviewed, and then they meshed the interview together. But it wasn't live. It was an article. I think more people are interested in Atom than they are in me.
No, of course not. No. Actually, sabi nga namin, at least there's reason for us to talk now. Kasi I guess there are issues at hand, no? So and it's good to know the context of your beliefs, your principles, and your actions. Actually, may panawagan sa mga aktivista nga ngayon na magtipon-tipon sa UP. You were telling me, ma'am, you were supposed to send off lawyers who will defend the position kontra sa anti-terror bill. Tell us about it, ma'am.
Oo, naisip namin together with the other petitioners, I think 38 all in all, to have a grand send-off.
Yeah.
I think that's akin to what they do for bar examinees.
That's true.
Nagsisend off just to pep talk them, no? And
That's
so we got in touch with all the lawyers of the petitioners and and sabi namin na let's drum up support for the Tuesday oral argument. So there's going to be a grand send-off today at UP at 4 p.m.
Okay.
Dapat nga nandun ako kaya lang nandito ako, so
Okay, salamat. Pero yun nga, isa ring pagkalahok yung pag-i-explain din at pagpapaliwanag ng mga posisyon nyo po sa mga issue. And we can go there and then support that later on. And Tuesday nga po yan. And then we'll talk about the commune also. There's an anniversary and I'm surprised. Buti nga si Atom then is part of it by doing the voice of being the voice of that particular report. But as I told you, we will talk about activism, ma'am. Ano ba yung klaseng aktivismo during your time? Give us your scenario, the context, at kung paano kayo nasangkot dun sa aktivismo po noon.
Talagang ang context niyan ay pagiging estudyante ng UP. When I first entered in UP, I was a very I joined the UP Student Catholic Action. Galing ako ng Catholic high school, so I was very concerned that I wouldn't become an atheist, so I joined the Student Catholic Action.
Okay.
And then, nung nagkakaroon na ng mga demonstrations and students would get hurt, while the radical activists were going around the campus denouncing police brutality, ako naman, I was going around the dorms denouncing police brutality, but also denouncing the violence of the activists, of the protesters. So at that time, I was not discriminating between the violence inflicted by police and military and the violence that came from the protesters. So going very fast forward, nagkaroon ng Diliman Commune, February of 1971. I was studying for an exam. Students were walking out of the classroom, and then one of my friends came to me and said, ano ka ba, mag-aaral ka na lang ba dyan? Nagkakagulo na dun sa University Avenue. And so I put down my books and we went to University Avenue. And I witnessed the shooting of Pastor Messina, a freshman student in UP, the brother of my friend, who was shot by a crazy professor. And this is because they were putting up barricades along University Avenue to protest the oil price hike and to anticipate a possible raid or entry of the Metrocom, Metropolitan Command, the police, basically, into the university. So that was my baptism of fire, ika nga, no? That radicalized me. I realized that it is the state or the government that has a monopoly on sanctioned violence. And then,
during that time, ma'am, what did your parents say?
They didn't know anything. I kept it from them. I would go to the Diliman Commune during the day, and then I would sneak into the house in the afternoon or early evening and pretend that I did not have anything to do with the Diliman Commune. It was like that for a long time. I would join demonstrations, but I would not tell my parents about it until eventually they found out.
And how did they react to your being part of that movement, I guess?
Bago mag-martial law, okay lang eh. Okay lang eh, you know. At saka I knew how to take care of myself. So hindi naman ako nasasaktan sa mga demonstrations. So I didn't go home wounded or anything. Pero nung nag-martial law na, that is when they really got worried. They got kasi I had to leave. I left the house early morning when it was anticipated that martial law would be declared. Tapos nag-underground na ako noon. And then it was only some weeks later when I met up with my parents in an uncle's house, and they tried to dissuade me. They asked me to go home, and for the first time, my dad cried, and he said, if you leave the house and you don't agree to come back, you're on your own. And then I said, well, I guess that's how it has to be, because kung hindi ako kikilos laban sa martial law, sinong kikilos? Kung hindi ngayon, kailan pa? And so my dad broke down, and well, that's the rest is history. I went underground.
You were how old then, ma'am? 19, 21 years old? Since you were still in school?
I think 17 or 18. Yeah.
You went underground. Okay. Knowing these realities, Atom, of course, syempre nakwento yan sa'yo, or nung nalaman mo yung mga ganitong storya, how did this affect you?
Alam mo, Noel, marami sa mga kwento ni Mama ngayon ko lang naririnig.
Talaga?
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, siguro it ties into your last question, bakit hindi kami na-interview together? Kasi for the most part, I think we are two independent people who just happen to share the same, have overlapping political and social beliefs, no? While I was growing up, I knew that my mom was an activist. I saw her on TV from time to time. Syempre, minsan may mga kwento rin. Nakikita ko yung mga litrato. Pero...
Ganda niya, di ba?
Syempre.
Soberano, di ba? Sabi ni Joel sa Radyo, sabi niya ganun, isang kamukha nila sa Soberano nag-underground. Parang kakaiba, di ba?
Anyway, so, I had my own journey. People keep asking me, how is it like growing up in a quote-unquote activist household? No, I wouldn't even consider our household a activist household, I guess, in a stereotypical sense. Pero nung nag-UP ako, actually may parallel experiences kami kasi nung nag-freshman ako sa UP, mainit naman nun yung campaign to oust former President Estrada.
Okay, yes.
And I would go to the campus, and then may mga malalaking rally. I remember one time, I think it was a State of the Nation address of ERAP. Tapos nagkaroon ng malaking mobilization along Commonwealth. Pagbaba ako ng jeep, patawid na ako ng papuntang UP, nakita ko nagkakagulo. Nagkakagulo. So parang ako, syempre, ilang taon lang din ako nun, parang very curious ako, no? What's going on here? Tapos nagkaroon ng nagkapukpukan yung mga nagpoprotesta, nagbatuhan ng mga ng bato doon, mga at kung ano-ano pa. I wouldn't say I was radicalized at that moment, pero parang if I learned anything from my family, I guess it's not to be afraid of those kinds of incidences, mga protests. Kasi I can imagine that you can react to it in two ways. One is you become fascinated by it, you want to learn more about it. And another is matakot ka and just say na, ayokong ma-involve dyan, basta ako mag-aaral lang ako. I went the other way, no? Yeah. Kasi hindi ako takot dun sa aktivismo kasi alam ko nanay ko aktivista eh. Mas ganon.
Yung yun, did you tell them about your experiences? Or parang yung mom mo rin dati na parang walang sabihan? But ma'am, did you feel that coming kay Atom during his time?
I don't remember. Kwento ko ba yun? Parang hindi rin, or maybe a little bit.
Hindi niya kinento yun. Oo. Pero alam ko na, inevitably, because he's a thinking person, and what radicalizes you naman is the situation. It's the reality. Oo.
When it's closest to you already, when you just have to act. But ma'am, didn't he open up? Or naramdaman nyo ba na ganyan yung pinagagawa niya? Or tulad ng ginawa nyo, parang natago niya ng maayos?
Well, ano naman ang itatago niya? I mean, uh, unlike I had to keep it from my parents, I suppose alam naman niya na we would not have objected. We would probably in the process nagkakaroon kami ng usapan over the dinner table about issues. And then at one point I remember nahuli siya eh. 'Di ba, Atom, you were arrested together with a friend na you were saving na nahuli ahead of you, and you tried to save her and you were arrested at the
Well,
same
yeah.
time.
I mean, by that time, I was fully into, the student movement, I would say.
Yes.
Kasi naging part na ako ng student council. I was also going room to room by then, going to the dorms, talking to students, and trying to, encourage them to act about certain issues that we were facing.
But you never asked your parents to intervene, Atom, during those times? Nung nakulong ka or nadakip ka?
Hindi. Well, walang way. And eventually malalaman naman nila eh.
Actually, I learned about it na nahuli na siya, and I think I was outside Manila then. I was in a meeting, so I could not come to his rescue in a manner of speaking. So nagtawag kami. Meron kaming tinawagan na staff ng brother-in-law ko na abogado, puntahan siya dun sa Pasay City Jail and try to get him out. Kaya lang ang sabi sa amin, pagdating doon, ayaw daw niyang lumabas ng kulungan kung siya lang ang lalabas. Gusto niya lahat sila. So I said, well,
manigas ka dyan.
Bahala ka. Honey, you find a way to get yourself out of there. Kasi meron talaga kaming unsaid na kaintindihan na you get yourself into something, you have to take care of yourself.
That's
okay?
true.
Yeah.
Pero buuin ko lang yung kwento. It's not like dalawa na kaming na-aresto. It was a protest, no? We went to the Senate to protest a certain bill that was being pushed nung time na yon. And things went south in a manner of speaking, and a couple of us got arrested, including members of the student council and other students who joined the protest. And yeah, hindi naman I mean, it's nothing like martial law naman. We spent the night in the police station. Nakakatawa nga yan eh, kasi eventually I became a reporter, right? And then nag-cover ako ng police beat.
Okay.
Tapos na-assign ako sa Southern Police District. Kasama dun yung Pasay. So minsan nung nagagawi ako doon, nag-iikot ako, I was doing the rounds, looking for stories. Parang kilala ko itong mga pulis na to actually. Ito yung mga nag-aresto sa amin, no? Pero syempre hindi ko na kunento sa kanila.
So nag-full circle na, ma'am. But during your time, what did being an activista mean? No, Ma'am Carol, parang anong ibig sabihin nun? Kasi ibang-iba yung context kay Atom nung panahon niya, at yun ngayon, lalo na ngayon, no? Sa inyo talaga, kitang-kita yung inequality, tapos kailangan talaga may political stand, di ba? Yung call sa pagiging aktivista nung panahon po ninyo.
Actually, student politics muna, no? I like Atom, I became involved in the student council. But student politics in UP has always been not parochial.
Yes.
Yung mga pambansang mga usapin, mga pambansang problema, nagiging bahagi yan ng pinag-uusapan at ipinaglalaban ng mga estudyante. And then if you're a student leader in your own right, you have to be knowledgeable, you have to be conversant, you have to be able to articulate national issues and take a stand and lead the students to take action. So doon talaga sa pagiging aktivistang estudyante. Kaya lang I entered UP 69, martial law was declared in 1972. So maiksi lang yung panahon. The Diliman Commune was 1971. So mabilis yung chain of events, and by the time nag-martial law na, life and death situation na yon,
Correct,
ano,
correct.
and the decision to go underground, for some students, the decision to go mamundok, no?
Yes.
Ganun ang mga pinag-uusapan, kasi mahigpit na mahigpit talaga noon eh, in one fell swoop, no? Walang mga student organizations, hindi pwedeng magtipon-tipon more than 5 people, maraming bawal, you know, talagang daman-dama mo yung repression nung panahon na yon.
Ma'am, so hindi lang making a stand, hindi lang nasa utak, dapat hayagan, tapos dapat may aksyon. Di ba? Some people will just say, okay, there's social awareness, pero sa inyo talaga, there has to be action, involvement. Kasi at certain point, dumating tayo yung panahon na, yung after siguro nung mga panahon ni Gloria, ni Erap na, yung activism would mean being excellent in your field and then changing it from within na. Pero nung panahon nyo talaga, iba. Kailangan talaga maghanap ng hayag at mas pronounced na aksyon para sa kapakanan ng bayan.
Hanggang ngayon naman eh.
Tama. Ma'am, ito
Kasi,
nga po.
when you say activista,
yes.
By definition, you translate your convictions,
True.
yung suri mo nung nangyayari, yung paninindigan mo, it has to be translated into, therefore, what do you do?
That's true.
Oo, hindi pwedeng,
Intellect.
lalo na nun, walang social media nun eh. Hindi ka pwedeng pindot ka lang ng pindot.
Yung iba, kala nila aktivista pag gumawa ng stand sa social media, yun na yun. No? Pero iba yung call talaga, ma'am. But may levels ho ba yung activism? May mga iba't ibang uri, iba't ibang levels ho ba yan? Well, or activism is activism. It's really something that you stand for and you have to live it.
Ang intindi ko, there's activism in a broad sense, you know. You have a cause. You are not a rebel without a cause. You have a cause.
Yes.
And there can be a range of causes that you can latch on to, you know. Climate change, environmentalism, human rights, national sovereignty, democracy, etc., etc. So, may mga aktivista na may pagka-focus sa issue-specific or cause-specific. And then there are activists who are more comprehensive in their position. Meron silang suri dun sa problema ng bansa. Meron silang understanding dun sa kasaysayan ng mga problema. Meron silang pagtingin ano yung malalim na ugat. And then merong understanding kung ano yung dapat gawin at paano magbabago. Kasi ang gusto mong baguhin, hindi yung maliliit lang na mga pitsi-pitsing reforma. You want to change society. You want to change the way people live their lives, etc., etc. So, pero at base, I think ang ibig sabihin ng aktivista, merong kinukuhang posisyon na lampas dun sa sarili niya, sarili niyang interes. At nagiging passionate siya doon sa kausang yon, at dinidevote niya yung panahon niya, whether it's full-time or part-time, nagbibigay siya ng significant amount of time and effort
para doon.
Para doon. And usually it's to change things. It's for change.
Ma'am, question.
So activists are not status quoers.
That's true. Naituturo ho ba yan? Kunyari, naituro niyo po ba yan sa mga anak ninyo?
Yung activism, hindi. Tinuro ko ba yun, Ato?
Okay.
No, he came into it on his own. I mean, that's really the only way you can do that. Like,
ganda naman yon kasi iniintindi natin. Atom, ikaw naman, paano ka naging aktivista kung yun yung term? At anong klaseng activism meron ka? At saan mo naman nakuha yon?
Genes.
Mahirap sagutin eh, Jeans.
Hintay ng mommy
Alam
waiting.
mo, maraming iba-iba yung dahilan tingin ko kung bakit pinipili ng mga tao na maging aktibo sa isang partikular na kausa, sabi nga ni nanay. Pwedeng ang entry point mo diyan, meron kang isang bagay na malapit sa puso mo na nakikita mo na meron kang kakayahan na gumawa ng pagbabago tungkol doon, o kahit man lang kumbinsihin yung ibang mga tao na makialam doon sa bagay na yon. Halimbawa, yung mga environmental activists, no? Kunyari, merong mga ayaw sa mga single-use plastics dahil siguro meron silang personal experience with, maybe they love the oceans and then they see kalat na yung basura, yung mga plastic sa mga dagat, napupunta yung straw sa ilong ng mga pawikan and so on. That's a form of activism that you get into because of it's something close to your heart.
Sure.
For me, I don't know, parang I don't want to sound may pagka parang I don't know how to call it, but to me it became some kind of an intellectual exercise. Parang it appealed to me intellectually in a way. At least ganun siya nagsimula. Hindi naman pwedeng puro intellectual lang. Pero parang nag-appeal sa akin yung parang bakit ba nangyayari ito? And then you dig a little bit deeper and then parang sabi nga ni Mama, nakikita mo yung mas malawak na tanaw, no? Na parang ano ba yung ugat ng problema? At bakit yung mga
Oh, you're muted. Atom.
Kalikasan.
Yes.
Hello?
Okay na.
Halimbawa, yung pinaglalaban natin sa internet connection ko ata is
Okay na. Kasama yan sa paglalaban natin. Okay.
Anyway, to make this short, habang nag-stabilize yung aking internet connection, yun, parang nag-appeal sa akin yung idea na merong suri sa lipunan na siyentipiko na hindi lang parang basta kung ano yung nakikita mo at the moment, meron pala itong malayong tanaw tsaka matagal na pagsusuri na dekada, hindi lang dekada kundi hundreds of years. At napapaliwanag niya kung ano yung mga problema natin sa mga pinakamaliliit mula sa kalikasan, bakit merong ecological emergency, bakit merong climate change, bakit merong malaking difference between the 1%ers and the rest of the people, bakit down to cultural problems ng mga Pilipino, down to the exploitation of the LGBT community.
Yes.
Na parang to me it's fascinating, not only fascinating pero parang it freed my
eye-opener.
Yeah. It's an eye-opener. It really blew my mind na parang parang I can actually devote my thoughts at least part of what I do towards these causes. Parang it gives you some kind of parang direction.
Correct. At yun, may hamon, di ba? Hindi lang dun sa pag-iisip nung kunyari, anong kaayusan ng mundo, may hamon din para may pagbabago sa sarili mo na lifestyle, di ba? Yun yung hamon sa mga aktivista. Ano yung naging effect nun, ma'am, sa inyo? To talk about life decisions, and then yung mga naging parang panuntunan nyo sa buhay pagkatapos yung nalaman na ganito nga yung mundo at ito yung gusto nyong isulong.
Backtrack lang ako ng konti.
Sige.
I think mahalaga sa akin, although the intellectual part na sinasabi ni Atom, meron din ganyan sa akin. Pero I think ang talaga sa akin yung yung humanitarian, at saka yung puso para sa mahirap. Kasi nung high school ako, katikista ako and then I empathize with people who were less fortunate. And then yung ganun na parang yung makamahirap, makamasa, na yun, intuitive yun And then yun nga, later on, nung na-expose na ako sa activism, and then nagbabasa na ako, doon na pumasok yung sinasabi ni Atom na, kaya pala ganun yun. Kaya pala ganun. O, paano na, anong kasaysayan nun? O, may pag-asa ba? Kasi, one thing that activism teaches you is to not be cynical. Kasi may mga nagiging cynical yung nakikita yung problema, lalo na sa bansa natin, parang tagal-tagal na, ganun pa rin mga problema. And then they say, Bahala na kayo dyan.
That's
Alis na ako, mag-abroad na ako, o asikasuhin ko yung sarili ko, pamilya ko. Yung ganon.
That was never a choice for you, ma'am. Hindi nyo ever naisip. Kasi parang yung activism would challenge yun nga, lifestyle change, pagbabago ng desisyon sa buhay, career choices, yun nga, even friends, ma'am, di ba? Affiliations, that would determine also yung kung anong circle yung iikutan mo.
Maaga pa lang so by the time nag-martial law na, parang yung mantra namin noon, yung serve the people, parang nakatatak na yan And hanggang ngayon na matanda na ako, parang nandiyan na yan sa bone marrow ko hindi ko na matanggal yan So, talagang ang attitude ko talaga, there are more important things in life than getting ahead, stability, comfort. Para sa akin, ang nakakapag-affirm sa akin yung alam mo meron kang ginagawa na makakatulong sa nakakarami,
Ganda.
magbabago ng kinabukasan, yung ganon. Tama-tama naman, yung napangasawa ko naman, hindi naman anak
Iba.
mayaman, and he was struggling. We struggled. So, masaya siya na hindi ako nagdi-demand ng kung ano-anong mga extravagant things. So, I was very modest about the kind of lifestyle that I was happy with.
Yeah.
And then, the other thing about being an activist, yung sinasabi mo, paano ka nagbago? Kasi ako, lumalaki ako, medyo spoiled kasi I was the bunso. And then, yung pamilya namin, very articulated, saka we're very outspoken. In fact, tinawag yung parents ko noon ng mga madre kasi masyado raw akong outspoken. Yeah, they have to do something about me. But, on the one hand, it's good. It makes you confident about expressing yourself, being articulate. On the other hand, meron talagang yabang merong yabang na parang ang galing-galing mo o gano'n. Being in the movement, being an activist, taught me how to listen to other people.
That's
Especially people who are not necessarily intellectually na kapantay. Natuto ako makipag-usap sa mga magsasaka, mga urban poor, mga driver, and not in a patronizing way. In fact, natuto akong makisalamuha para tanggapin nila ako.
galing.
And then yung sense mo na lagi kang self-critical, self-reflective, yung natutunan namin yun yung criticism, self-criticism, yung
Yes. Reflection action, di ba?
oo, reflection action. Yung kunyari, yung kahit na pinupuna ka, alam mo naman, tingin mo mali naman yung puna sa'yo, hindi naman totoo yun. Pero ang turo sa'yo, isipin mo, bakit nila inisip yun sa'yo? Ano ang contribution mo dun sa maling pagtingin nilang yon at anong magagawa mo para baguhin yon? In the process, it's a very dynamic thing hanggang ngayon, hanggang I'm already in my late 60s, there's always this you always think, what did I do wrong? What could I done better? How can I better talk to people so that what I say will resonate with them, yung ganun ba?
Yeah.
So, kaya sabi ko nga, ang mga aktivista hindi talaga tumatanda Oo, kasi laging nagbabago, laging bukas sa pagbabago.
Pero yan, si Atom may instances na sabing sobrang nag-iisip, di ba? May ganon, di ba? Parang bago gumawa ng isang pagkilos o isang aksyon, dumarating ho ba kayo sa ganon? Parang ang dami pang pinagdadaan ng mga proseso sa isip bago alam niyo yung gagawing aksyon, no? Pero yun, ang daming pagpaproseso ng mga bagay-bagay.
Hindi ako ganon.
Si Atom lang po yun.
Si Atom yun, oo.
Okay, Atom, ikaw naman.
Tanungin mo sa kanya.
Anong klaseng epekto sa'yo naman ng aktivismo?
Well, siguro I want to preface my answer by saying yung pagiging aktivista naman Ayokong i-confer sa akin yung titulong yon dahil alam ko naman kung ano yung sakripisyo ng mga aktivista na talagang lalo na yung tinatawagan ng mga full-time activists, no. Hindi I don't quite I can't quite consider myself in that league. I have other decisions at this point of my life are informed by what I learned when I was in college, and of course my involvement also in the student movement. But definitely I think in a way hindi nga pagmamalabis sabihin na tingin ko activism kind of saved me. Kasi I would have been insufferable kung hindi ako naging aktivista. I would have been too self-involved. Masyado siguro feeling ko masyado ako na in love sa sarili ko to an extent. Kasi parang meron, I think may ganun na rin naman akong tendencies nung bata ako, kasi yun, yung ano nga, yung in fact yung appeal nga ng aktivismo sa akin noon na very intellectual exercise, and I emphasize na hindi dapat doon nagtatapos yun. It's just so happened na yun yung naging gateway ko.
Because of what? Saved you because of?
Well, like for example, yung sabi nga ni Mama na parang natutunan ko na sa totoo lang I don't know shit. Parang yung akala kong galing-galing ko, tali-talino ko, no? Parang dami kong kaya kong i-figure out itong mga bagay na ito. And then magiging aktivista ka, tapos pupunta ka sa mga community, makakausap mo yung mga urban poor, yung mga magsasaka. And then parang ang dami kong keme, parang gano'n. Dami ko palang hanash, sabi nga ng mga kabataan sa buhay, na natutunan ko na it's basically because, my bourgeois tendencies, no? Na parang minsan you tend to, I mean, personal to. This is a personal thing that I realize is I tend to over-intellectualize things. When sometimes, the answer is really right in front of you. Parang magbabago rin yung pananaw mo about yung mga bagay na dating isipin mo. Marami akong mga posisyon nung mas bata pa ako na talagang nagbago. Dahil sa proseso yon na nakakausap mo yung masa. At hindi ko naman magagawa yun kung hindi ako naging aktivista . Kahit na yung nanay ko aktivista, hindi naman automatic yun . Kasi hindi mo naman
Osmosis.
hindi naman hereditary yun . In fact, in many ways, I feel like, even if people say na si Carol is an activista, Atom was an activista or as a student activist, it doesn't mean that we have exactly the same opinions about many of the issues that are affecting us. And parang it's a personal journey. It can't be anything less than a personal journey, kasi otherwise it's not gonna stick.
Tatanong ko lang, naipapasa nga ba yung activist mo? Parang did it in a way, did you expect it or influence your children to believe and follow your example po, ma'am? Or yun nga, sabi niyo osmosis? Parang nasa pinakain niyo ba kina Atom yan at Sandra?
Hindi, siguro values, no? There are certain values.
That's true.
Which my husband and I shared, no?
That's true.
Siguro yun lang naman ang maipapasa mo. Kasi yung politics, yung political line o yung political analysis.
Maaral nila yon.
Maaaral nila yon . At saka mararanasan nila yun .
Okay.
So it's really values. Ngayon,
I remember Atom telling me na the reason why he went into theater is that you thought kailangan niyang lumawak yung pakikisalamuhan niya sa mga tao. Yun, parang it's his way of...
yeah. Atom was very shy, actually.
Wow.
When he was young. Yeah. Hanggang ngayon, shy yan. It doesn't show, but he's shy.
Okay.
So, yun ang naisip namin ng husband ko, no, na he was asking ano extracurricular activity ang papasukan niya when he was in grade school. So we sort of ushered him into the children's theater.
Ateneo Children's Theater, yes.
Ateneo Children's Theater. ganon. Ano lang aside from values, yung pag-uusapan namin, kung merong problema o kaya merong hindi niya ma-decide one way or another,
Process it
kasi
with...
bukas kami sa isa't isa. So we talk about it. Of course, we try not to be inquisitive or pushy.
Yeah.
Pero pag hiningi yung aming opinion, sasabihin ko. And sometimes it gets kind of abrasive. You ask Atom.
Really?
I can be very abrasive pagka.
But then I can tell you, ma'am, in our processing also, he really values your opinion. Ang dami niyang ibang mga desisyon galing po dun sa mga tanong ninyo. Yun, or galing po sa mga advice niyo. Pero Atom, how were you affected by your mom's views and affiliations and positions on issues?
Alam mo, tingin ko nga mas magandang tignan yung value system na nabuo. Kasi yung value system na yun, hindi lang naman kay mama yun actually malaking bahagi nun sa AirPods ko kasi nakita ko sa tatay ko yung
Diba?
simple living.
That's
yung
true.
parang yung finding dignity in work and the importance of doing your duty. And we were athletes, my sister and I, from a very young age. So parang ang naturo sa amin nun yung working hard, keeping your head down, and just believing that you can achieve something through hard work. All of those things kind of came together. And parang
big sense of humor of your dad. My God.
And actually ang champion talaga sa amin sa family namin when it comes to yung empathy, I think, and also yung yung parang yung pagkakaroon ng sensitivity sa pananaw ng iba. Tingin ko papa ko yun Tama ba ako ba?
Oo, yun.
Kasi yung mga bagay na yun, hindi naman naituturo yun You just lead by example. You just observe it in the people that surround you. In my case, it was my parents. Pero you can learn that from other people who are have a big influence in your life. Pero kumbaga, that is the foundation where everything was built up. And parang by the time I became a college student,
formed na. Parang
formed na yun. Parang hindi na mahirap sa akin to kind of follow the path that eventually led me to become a very active student leader. And hindi nga ako masyadong nagkukwento noon I don't think na kung ano yung ginagawa. Parang kasi sa isang banda feeling ko it's understood. Na alam na naman nila yan, ba't ko pa ikukwento. Pero nakikita ko rin sila, nag-worry din sila from time to time, lalo na pag late na umuwi and so on. Yung situation was not quite like the martial law era. Syempre, ibang usapin yun. Pero marami pa ring dangers. So,
I remember, ma'am,
parenting.
I was the one who called you when Atom was there in the counting of yung sa ballots ng student council. And then, I had a ready, parang, okay, alternative. O kung hindi mo siya manalong president ng student council, masasama mo siya sa breakfast sa ABS-CBN. Pero ang sagot sa akin ng nanay mo, Atom, noon ay, hindi niya alam kung nasan ka kasi hindi ka pa umuwi. So, what she did was to give me your number. Tapos buti na lang nagtiyap lahat na parang yon, at least there was an alternative. So, parang, but during those times, kunyari, when you ran for student council and that happened, and on your transition to your media career, did you ask for their advice?
All the time. I ask for their advice all the time. Alam mo naman to parang minsan I tend to overthink things. It's gotten me this far, so hindi naman siya I've made some pretty good decisions, I feel. Yes, even though I have a tendency to kind of dither or vacillate from time to time. Pero yun siguro, if I'm really thankful for, one of the many things I'm thankful for, growing up in this family is yung openness I don't know if we're quite as open as other families, but we're open enough so that, may mga big life decisions and
Yes.
some personal decisions that we have to make.
Yes.
Hindi ka magdadalawang isip kasi isa pa yon na naramdaman ko na maaga pa lang, no, from both my mom and my dad, na parang basically wala silang pressure eh. Parang I wasn't pressured to do anything eh. And it's a wonder nga na nandito ako kasi parang siguro dahil hindi kami mayaman, wala naman akong i-inherit na malaking sum of cash. So parang
pressure sa iyo.
Pero walang pressure to do whatever. Parang tatanong ka lang, gusto mo bang para magpag-isip-isip mo, parang gusto ko maging doktor, pero hindi na, yung mga ganyan. so it's
yung pressure Atom, yung sports,
maybe
that was Papa was
really wanted him to
consistent.
Pero kailangan naman yun eh. Lalo na
triathlete naman tong si Atom ng bata, pati si Sandra, di ba?
Lalo na yung kapatid ko. Yun ang champion talaga.
Yeah. Pero pinipressure namin siya nung nagkapera ng husa na maganda naman po yung kay Atom na naghahanap siya ng ways para mapagsama-sama kayo makapag-travel. Yun nga lang nag-COVID. Natuloy ba yun, Atom?
Hindi na natuloy.
Nga eh, sana.
Pero sana matuloy pa.
Sana matuloy. But yun nga, going back to the topic, yung activism din kasi, habang sineselebrate natin at pinaglalaban natin, meron ding mga magulang na ayaw pumasok sa UP yung mga anak dahil umiiwas po sa aktivismo. Paano niyo sasagutin yan, ma'am? Or sa universities na mga nababanggit, no? So, na may activism.
Umiiwas dahil natatakot.
Yes.
Na maging aktivista yung anak nila.
How would you answer that?
Actually, sa Pilipinas, hindi lang naman UP ang pinanggagalingan ng activism eh.
Yes.
Kasi ang fertile soil for activism are the conditions eh.
Equality, yeah, that's
Oo.
true.
At actually, minsan, kung anak ka na mahirap, minsan mas madali kasi nararamdaman mo, kinagisnan mo yon, pero minsan, dahil sa pagnanais mo makaalpas dun sa ganong klaseng sitwasyon, one-track mind ka, no? You want to get ahead, you want to be able to lead a life where you can support your parents. So, ayaw mong makialam sa ibang mga bagay.
Yes.
Minsan, yung mga may kaya, yung pa yung merong pang konting leisure, no, na hindi pressured to do that. So, but it's really, it's not something that you can avoid, lalo na kung yung anak mo ay nag-iisip at lumaki na may empathy.
Yes.
At saka may sense of justice, yung ganon, hindi makatiis sa situation of injustice. Activism will find them wherever they are. So some are late bloomers. Kung kailan naging pari na sila o kung kailan na abogado na sila o doktor, saka nagiging activists in their own way, no? But yun lang talaga sa pag estudyante ka, kabataan, talagang mas natural na doon ka maging aktivista kasi yung idealism mo is at a high point, right? Wala kang iniisip pa na hanap buhay, mga pinapalaking mga anak o etc. no? So mas libre kang mag-isip at saka maggumawa ng desisyon na hindi makasarili, no? Pero pwedeng UP yun, pwedeng PUP yun. I mean, kung maniniwala ka kay General Parlade, liban sa UP, 18 other schools. Sabi naman ng isang taga-National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, 38 schools, it's growing exponentially. So it's not like you can avoid it.
Yes. So what do you tell your parents, Atom?
Ako, ang idadagdag ko lang doon, natakot sila na maging aktivista yung anak nila sa UP. Mas maraming graduate ng UP na nagiging mga pasista mga nagiging
Okay.
mga miyembro ng gobyerno na walang kwenta.
Okay.
Mas
Okay.
marami, in fact, ang dominant, tingin ko nga, being a UP student, tingin ko ang dominant na kaisipan sa UP is still one of being conservative. Hindi it's a misnomer na ang mga lahat ng taga-UP ay mga aktivista. Marami sa mga yan na
Good point.
hindi ganoon mag-isip at hindi magiging ganoon ang pag-isip kahit na may mga recruiter di umano sa
Okay.
UP. Kalokohan nga yun sa tingin ko kasi tulad nga ng sinabi ni Mama, yung condition naman yung nag-aanak niyan. So kahit saan ka nag-aaral, lalo na kung yung ganun yung value system mo, hahanap at hahanapin ka rin naman yan Marami akong mga kaibigan na walang touch point, sa activism. Graduate ng Ateneo, ng Lasal, UST, some other schools na ngayon nakikita mo sila pa yung mas civic-minded, no? Yung mas nag-iisip na paano ba parang parang grabe na yung nangyayari, ano ba pwede nating gawin? Paano ba ako makakatulong? Magugulat kayo ibang mga taga-UP na dating mga miyembro ng student council, halimbawa, sila pa yung mas ngayon parang ay nako, bahala kayo sa buhay niyo basta para sa akin ito lang gagawin ko. Cynical.
At pag-usapan natin yan, yung parang napasong mga aktivista tapos biglang nag-iba na ng lifestyle totally, di ba? Kasi yun ma'am, yung parang na-stress at parang tinalikdan na talaga yung pagiging aktivista. Naranasan niyo po yan sa mga kahanay niyo noon?
Oo, marami.
Ano po yung mga dahilan? Ano po yung mga dahilan ng pagtiwala nila?
Dudugtungan ko lang yung sinabi ni Atom. Ang UP, siguro ang dominant stream dyan is liberalism. Hindi radicalism yung student activism, radical student activism is actually a counterculture. Hindi siya yung dominant culture inside UP.
Ganda.
But because this counterculture has been there for the longest time, and it has produced so many martyrs and heroic figures, and kasi in the 70s, sabi ko nga, the best and the brightest ang nagiging aktivista
Sana ganun, no?
Oo, the best and the brightest. So, editor ng collegian, student council, mga even fraternities, leaders ng mga fraternities, mga nagiging aktivista. And so, parang ang ibig ko sabihin, nakakatawa nga yung mga ka-generation ko na nung estudyante sila, napaka-conservative, even reactionary, na parang inis na inis sa mga aktivista na ginugulo yung klase, rally ng rally. Nung nag-reunion ng, let's say, Ruby anniversary of UP,
wow, Ruby.
nag-present sila ng isang play. Ang kanilang director is si Ben Cervantes about the 70s. And you have this, one of them was the member of the monetary board na naggagano na makibaka, wag matakot. Kasi na-imbibe na rin nila yung tradition na yon, pinagmamalaki na rin nila yon kasi parang yung pagiging nationalist, yung pagiging activist, yung pagiging proactive, etc., parang inangkin din na nila. But that is far from saying that the minute you step into UP, you become a radical. No way.
Or communist even, no? So,
communist, yeah.
So, well, I'll go through kasi at the second hour we'll have the Radyo Katipunan anchors also, no? But I'll finish lang the issues, ma'am. Kunyari, yung sa UP-DND Accord. So I attended the mobilization yesterday, and despite the wide clamor of the UP community, the Board of Regents did not adopt the resolution of the sectoral regents, so the students, the faculty, and the staff. So back to the technical working group. What's your comment there, ma'am?
Well, the Board of Regents, ang composition talaga niyan, majority niyan, Malacanang appointees.
Yeah, okay.
and then you have a representative from the Senate and Congress. So
In fairness to Senator Joel Villanueva, I got in touch with him and said, yun nga, parang they're doing something in the Senate, di ba? They filed something to
Yeah.
institutionalize the supposed accord. Pero ma'am, so you were frustrated with that move or non-move of the BOR?
well, let's just say I'm not really that
Expecting.
surprised. Yeah. Kasi the Board of Regents is they're the ones who toe the line and hold the line.
Okay.
Kumbaga, no?
Okay.
Kung merong nagtutulak ng certain progressive policies or changes in the university,
Sectors yun.
yeah, yun yung faculty regent, student regent, non-academic personnel, even alumni regent.
Okay.
But the others, talagang, lalo na yung Malacanang appointees, they're expected to think and vote along the lines of what they think their appointing power expect of them.
I'll push it, ma'am. The Makabayan Bloc naman has filed 2 bills already institutionalizing the 1989 UPD&D Accord. No? So magandang effort dun sa grupo po ninyo. Pero here's the CHED chairperson, Prospero de Vera, saying that there should be a redefinition of academic freedom. Doon ba nagkakaroon ng problem? So Atom, tatanungin din kita. Ayun, kasi sinasabi nung isang, nireport dito sa, plug, State of the Nation kagabi, no? Yung si Professor Michael Eric Castillo na sinabi niya, I see little significance of the UPD&D Accord to academic freedom. Na after fact-checking, is not a real professor but a part-time lecturer sa UP ng 2013 to 2017. So, meron bang redefinition supposedly na academic freedom or that stays? Academic freedom stays. And what does that mean now? Academic freedom mean? Kasi nagbago ho ba yun? At all?
No.
Ikaw,
Can I
Atom.
take this?
Go ahead, take it.
Okay.
Sige, without going into the D&D Accord, kasi it's still a developing story and we're covering it. Yung idea ng parang talking about the definition of academic freedom, to me, I feel like it's a diversion na parang bakit tayo mag-split ng hairs over the definition of academic freedom? This is presumably because ang rallying call ng mga tumututol doon sa abrogation is to protect academic freedom. But parang ang academic freedom is a hard word to define, but it is easily understood. If you know what I mean? Na parang we're not gonna sit here and split hairs and kind of talagang codify what academic freedom actually means. Pero if you ask anyone, any student, what academic freedom means, madali nila maintindihan kung ano ibig mo sabihin. It's basically the freedom to think freely and to discuss ideas freely, with whether it's inside the classroom or outside. And merong feeling na kapag walang safe space sa loob ng isang university like UP, ang hinihingi lang naman ng mga estudyante at ng admin, magpaalam muna yung mga police at military before coming in. The fact nga na hindi na pag-usapan kung bakit tinanggal is already suspicious to a lot. Kasi parang bakit biglang tinanggal? Gusto nyo ba magtayo ng dito, ng station o ng detachment or whatever? So parang in the same way that the freedom of the press is affected by little things that you do even to competitors, and then yung sasabihin mo na walang kinalaman yun sa freedom of the press, but it does kasi it's a chilling effect, di ba? Sure. Na parang ganun din sa mga estudyante, sa mga teachers, kapag ang message na sinesend nun is lalo na kung mayroong mga ganung pronouncements na parang UP is a breeding ground for communists. And you know what they do to communists, right?
Yeah.
Either inaaresto o pinapatay. So parang, ano naman ang feeling na will that inspire confidence?
Yeah.
I doubt it.
Ang maganda, before the program, I was texting your mom and parang in the rally, in the mobilization I attended yesterday, kasi nga people were pressuring the BOR to make a stand kasi nakakagulat lang na parang hanggang ngayon, 1 week na, wala pang stand yung BOR mismo. Ang sinabi doon, ang academic freedom ay nabuo mula sa karanasan at pagsusuri na ang kalayaan ay dapat kumatig doon sa walang kapangyarihan tungo sa higit na pagkapantay-pantay. And ma'am, yun naman po yung nakasabi na sa atin, no, yung paniniwala natin na dapat yung academic freedom should benefit a wider majority, yung underprivileged. So, what do you think of that? Has it changed? I don't think it has changed.
On the one hand, yung academic freedom, yung freedom of the members of the academe, students, faculty, and researchers to inquire about reality, to research,
That's true.
to analyze, and to teach and study. So simple lang yon. Ang sabi nga ni Sister Mary Jan, it's not just academic freedom, it's about education. Education teaches critical thinking. So ang under attack dito is the freedom to teach your students to become critical thinkers. No? So hindi ko alam kung yung sinasabi nila na gusto ng military na wag maging hotbed ng radicalism, ng communism ang UP. Sabi nga ni Sister Mary Jan, they are just pouring gasoline into dry kindle, no?
Yeah.
Ang mga nag-o-oppose ngayon diyan sa abrogation ng UP DND Accord, they're not stark raving communists. They're not even stark raving liberals. Marami diyan talagang mga profesor na na binavalue nila yung kanilang independence at saka kasi hoda kayo, no? Aaralin ko yung gusto kong aralin, research ko yung gusto kong research. I will teach the way I have the right to teach, no? Na of course may limits yun, no? You're not supposed to do anything outrageous. Pero so you have ang nananawagan na ibalik yung accord na yan reflects a wide range of views. You have about more than 50 professors emeriti ng UP. Yes. Na na yan, mga senior na yan, and many of them do not have any kind of background in activism or radicalism, and yet they are saying that removing that accord is a threat, is an affront on the university, and even the charge that the university breeds communists is ludicrous. No, how can the university do that? And for the military to be the judge of that, syempre nag-aalma yung mga profesor, ano?
Yeah.
Sino kayo para sabihin yan, ano? Ngayon, kung merong mga komunista dito, unang-una, hindi naman illegal ang komunista. It's not illegal to be a communist. Okay. Kung merong mga nagre-recruit ng NPA dito, ay di hanapin natin. Hanapin nyo, trabaho niyan, laki-laki ng budget nyo hanapin nyo. Hindi ang solusyon doon, pwede kayong pumasok anytime, magpakita kayo ng nag-show of strength kayo doon, takutin nyo yung mga estudyante at saka yung mga faculty na, ingat kayo kung ano yung sasabihin nyo dyan, kasi merong mga nakikinig.
Okay. So, tapos Atom, I caught your question dun sa State of the Nation. Sabi mong it's coming at a time na walang pasok. Isa yun sa mga tanong mo dun sa nag-report. I think si Chino, kasi nakita ko din si Chino kahapon, na nangyayari to ng panahong wala namang activity sa campus. So, how do you feel about it?
I mean, siguro not so much what I feel about it. It's more of hindi naman napag-usapan na parang kasama na doon yung timing. Yeah. Kasi nga bakit ito ginagawa ngayon na wala namang mga estudyante? So ano ang ma-achieve ng pag-abrogate ng accord at this time? Those are all questions actually. Yeah. I'm not gonna say I don't even know kung ano nga ang dahilan kung bakit kayong ginagawa yon. Pero kung ang simple explanation is because there is recruitment ongoing, well, there are no students in UP right now. At least siguro kung meron man konting-konti kasi dahil nga sa walang pumapasok. Maybe they'll say na it doesn't matter when we do it. The important thing is gawin na namin ngayon. So the gates are wide open when students are back in the university. maybe. Pero the thing is, sana nga at the minimum ay naihapag kung ano yung concerns ng DND sa UP
Napag-usapan
community para malaman kung ang dapat ba talagang gawin ay abrogate yung accord.
That's so. Napag-usapan bago ginawa yung aksyon. Pero ma'am, ito, well, going to an corollary issue, yun nga pong anti-terror bill, no? Dahil dyan na red tag din, or hindi na nga red tag, kinall out talaga yung mga kasama niya doon sa partido, sa bayan, na yun nga, parang, komunista kayo, o dapat delikado kayo, kasi parang even to the point na baka sinisira rin yung mga chances sa susunod na eleksyon, no? So how do you feel about that, ma'am?
The anti-terror law is like ito na yung inaantay ng military, ng mga militarista na kasangkapan, weapon for running after dissenters,
Yes.
oppositionists, even people who against freedom of expression. Kasi ano talaga yung terror bill na yan parang kumbaga parang palakol yan Hindi yan, it's not it's not a sharp instrument that will excise some problem, kundi it will hack at so many of our freedoms. So kailangan talagang labanan yan, and it is really heartening that from many walks of life and through a wide range of broad spectrum of political colors, lumabas yung 38 petitioners against the anti-terror law. And nagkanda COVID na nga yung office ng Solicitor General kasi siguro kinabahan sila sa dami ng kailangan nilang harapin. Ng mga magagaling na mga abogado at saka mga stalwart petitioners, no?
Ma'am, ito, sayang lang, nakabalik na si Atom sa frame, pero habang wala siya, gusto ko sana, we worry about your life. Kayo rin po ba? Yung kunyari, parang yung seguridad niyo po ba nakataya?
Oh yeah, certainly, yeah. Maybe it's just because I've learned to live with it from a young age hanggang ngayon. But I must tell you na dito lang sa ilalim ng administrasyong ito na talagang naramdaman ko yung imminence ng possible attack on me, no? And dahil dun sa mga raids, sunod-sunod na raid, the latest is merong trumped up case against the chairperson of the Bayan chapter in the Cordillera. And not only was a bounty put on his head, nag-shoot to kill order against him. So what we're facing here is illegal search warrants where tataniman ka ng bomba para hindi ka pwedeng mabail, illegal warrants of arrest, bigla ka lang magkakaso sa isang malayong lugar somewhere in Mindanao na you've never been to or you couldn't have gone to, and you are basically demonized as a terrorist for certain political beliefs and certain political positions. Talaga, nung after ng human rights defenders, yung 7 trade unionists who were arrested on Human Rights Day, merong umugong na balita na meron na namang magkakaroon na naman ng series of raids. Talagang nakakatakot. In fact, that night I couldn't sleep and I texted Atom, sabi ko, may ganito na naman balita, no?
He was concerned. Actually, he was concerned. And we would like to know, ano po, kasi hindi lang kayo yung dumadaan yan. We have co-faculty members in UP na ganyan din po yung pinagdadaanan. Ano po yung safeguards na dapat gagawin ng mga taong yan yung nararamdaman na pinag-uusapan na sila or may mga banta sa kanilang buhay?
In the overall scheme of things, the best defense is really na lumaban That is the best defense. Politically, kailangan labanan yung rine-red tag ka. You have to fight that to show that it is not warranted, walang batayan yan, that it is meant to na sikilin ka. You're being targeted because you are criticizing wrongful policies of the government, because you are not keeping quiet about what you think are injustices. Yun, in general. Pero yung pagdating na dun sa paano mo didepensahan ang sarili mo, well, some things that we did, we asked the barangay and the neighborhood association to come to the house and inspect the house to show that there are no bombs and there are no guns here. And and that, parang kumbaga ipi-preempt mo, no?
Pinag-usapan ho namin ni Atom yan. Baka pagdating naman po din na dyan, parang pwede rin naman sila mag-plant ng kung ano man.
Pwede talaga. Kaya at the end of the day, importante kung ano yung paniniwalaan ng tao no? Of course, kung talagang gusto kanilang hulihin, kulungin, patayin, wala ka rin talagang magagawa, no? Because they have superior strength and they are legally authorized because they are state agents, military at saka mga police. Pero para madepensahan mo yung sarili mo, you keep your ear close to the ground. Try to be on the lookout for signs that you are nag-intensify yung surveillance. Find out what's happening to others. And then, I guess, kung talagang push comes to shove na talagang imminent na you have to find a way na umiwas ka muna. Kaya lang, medyo mahirap na pag matanda ka na, di ba?
That's true.
Madali-dali, 17 years old, madali-dali yun. Pero, pushing 70, medyo mahirap na yun. No?
No, Atom, ako yun. The concern na your mom is a senior citizen, hindi na ganun kalusog, tapos ganyan pa yung hinaharap. Ano yung safeguard? So paano mo hinaharap yan? Yung ganyang realidad na pwedeng may mangyari sa kanya.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to talk about in this kind of forum.
Of course, I worry. Pag ganyan, mahirap, di ba? Because you worry, yeah.
Yeah, of course you worry. Hindi naman tayo naive, no?
Yeah.
Alam naman natin how this works. I've seen the news reports, and we've seen this whole operation play out in a different setting, no? Yung war against drugs na parang I don't think it's controversial to say at this point na maraming mga irregularities na nangyari doon. Kahit na yung pagsusuri, investigasyon na ginawa ng iba-ibang independent organizations, human rights groups, kasama na dyan ang mga representatives from the UN Human Rights Office. Meron talagang definite findings, halimbawa na nagtatanim ng mga baril, and so on and so forth. Nabanggit din nila dun sa kanilang report na ang napapansin nilang bahagi ng strategy ay i-demonize yung mga tinuturing nilang kaaway ng Estado, yung mga enemies of the state. And that's why, to me, as a son, never mind as a journalist, no, you do worry. My sister and I, we really worry a lot. And but at the same time, I guess we've been preparing for it for a long time also. I mean, hindi naman dahil sa
inevitable.
Hindi naman dahil sa inevitable, totoo. Kundi sa natanggap na namin yun eh. Tanggap na namin na
at parang tanggap ng nanay mo ang tapang niya, no?
Oo naman.
Par for the course.
Tanggap na namin na yung mga individual tulad ng nanay ko, mainit talaga yan sa mata ng mga taong hindi gusto na magtagumpay yung mga reforma, yung mga pagbabago na gusto. I mean, hindi ko na siguro share yung mga specifics of how we have to deal with it, but it's really concerning.
Okay. We'll take a short break. Sabi ko nga, this becomes a special forum because the people from Radyo Katipunan will be joining us and asking you questions. Pero yan, it's been a fruitful 1 hour and 17 minutes. Sabi ng mamo kasi, hindi niya alam kung paano yun na masasurvive at baka paikot-ikot. Pero sabi ko, palagi niyang tanong sa akin, I hope I make sense. Pero yun ma'am, sobrang marami kaming natutunan sa inyo. So we'll be back in a while. We'll continue with our level up discussion with the members of the Radyo Katipunan family at sasama sila para magtanong kina Atom at kina Ma'am Carol Araullo. Ayan na, mag-break na muna siya. Mag-CR break din si Ma'am.
Sipagin na natin to para samahan niyo na ako. Wag mo na kaya. So many things I can't control, so many hurts that happen every day, so many heartaches that pierce the soul, so much pain that won't ever go away. How do we make it better? How do we make it through? What can we do when there's nothing we can do? We can be kind, we can take care of each other, we can remember that deep down inside we all need the same things, and maybe we'll find if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. Nobody really wants to fight, nobody really wants to go to war. If everyone wants to make things right, then what are we always fighting for? Does nobody want to see it? Does nobody understand? The power to heal is right here in our hands.
for return. We'll just take the cue from them. Justin, just give us the cue. Okay, ma'am. We're back with our Level Up exclusive with the Araullos, Ma'am Carol and Atom. We'll leave the talk on the anti-terror bill, ma'am, with the initiatives on Tuesday, you said. Actually, today, ano po yung initiatives? That's Tuesday will be the first day na sasabihin yung mga points, no? Against the anti-terror bill.
On Tuesday is the first session of the oral arguments.
Yes.
There are 38 petitioners, pero 6 yung cluster ng mga issues na dapat talakayin, and this was distributed to 6 lawyers from among the 38. So, kumbaga, first volley ng arguments dyan. And in the morning, there will be mobilization in front of the Supreme Court. We will try to have a good representation of the petitioners and also the lawyers groups. But most of the lawyers will be preparing to either argue or backstop the ones who will argue. And then in the afternoon, nakatutok na yung media doon sa oral arguments. We are preparing parang alternative coverage with a panel of experts to help discuss, help the audience or the public understand what's going on. But today, there is a big send-off. Parang moral booster for the lawyers who will argue, for the petitioners. Parang build up na rin so that people take notice, pay attention, bakit importante ito. Ano yung mga usapin dito at paano kayo apektado.
Yes.
So yun ang nakaplano. And then on the day before the oral arguments on February 2 is the 50th anniversary of the Diliman Commune.
Yeah.
So there will be an activity in UP sponsored by the UP community. Meron ng installation art doon ng stylized barikada ng isang batikang artist, si Imaw.
Yes.
And then they have a series of they have a program. I think it's hybrid. Partly may pwedeng pumunta doon, but it's going to be online. So that's 4 o'clock on February 1.
We'll see you there. But Atom, your mom will be there in all those mobilizations. Don't you tell them, uy, mommy, hinay-hinay lang. Hindi na kayo bata, hindi na kayo 17 at may COVID pa. Hindi mo matasabihan.
Hindi pa nakikinig sa akin yan eh.
Anyway, we're joined by our colleagues in Radyo Katipunan, yung some of them and then yung iba parating mamaya. Kasama natin si Cholo Malilin, kasama ko sa student activities ng Ateneo dati, pero nandiyan pa rin siya sa Ateneo. Cholo ay nakasama niya, yung asawa ni Cholo nakasama ni Atom sa isang coverage at saka yung kapatid ni Cholo ay naging teacher ni Atom nung grade school, Cholo, no? Tama ba yun?
Si Miss Malilin.
Naka-mute. Ayan.
Hello, hi.
Hello.
Sorry. Hello po. Hi, Noel. Thank you for getting me back on the air for Radyo Katipunan. It's been a while. Magandang hapon, Atom. And hello po, Miss Carol. It's nice to meet you.
Hello.
And it's nice to see you also. Yes, I guess kami ni Atom, well, we haven't really interacted as closely as they have with my sister na naging teacher po niya sa grade school. So si Sansan na ate ko ay teacher ata niya. Tama ba? Grade school nga ba?
Yes,
Okay.
grade 3 and grade 6.
Ayan.
Tandang-tanda pa yung grade
Ayan talaga. Oo, so yan ang medyo connection namin. Pero I guess we go way back further kasi pareho ang aming theatrical roots in Ateneo. Ay Reuter baby si Atom at saka alam ko ACT din yan. Tama ba, Atom? Nag-ACT ka ba?
ACT, mas ACT.
Yun. So, yun. At nagkasama kami sa Hong Kong yan when he hosted, Crawl nga ba? The Crawl sa
yes.
sa Metro Channel. Ayan.
Well, the last
kumusta?
That was significant.
Ayan. So I'm glad that your career is going strong, Atom. I'm glad to see you every day, still doing your blessed work in journalism. At medyo maano nga ngayon, I guess talagang masalimuot, no? Masalimuot. Actually, I'm still in Ateneo. I'm still very much involved with students as the director for student services in the Loyola schools, no, sa college. There is a sentiment now among our students na parang ang lakas ng inertia ngayon sa local, how should I call it? I guess local politics natin. Na parang some of them actually prefer to watch international news. Kasi parang, di ba, mas exciting ngayon ang news sa US, di ba, kung ano nangyayari. At saka parang mas, feeling nila mas may nangyayari doon. Parang mas doon, medyo nakaangat na sila from the quagmire that they were in for the past 4 years. Tayo, parang lugmok pa rin. So I'm getting this impression from my students. Just recently, I had some consultations with my students. And a lot of them, of course, are disappointed na they still cannot go back to school because wala pa nga tayong solusyon, wala pang clear future on how the vaccination will be. You know, we're saying they're saying third quarter of the year. I guess the more possible prospect is baka next year pa. So imagine nyo yung mga first year students natin ngayon in all schools. They've never stepped foot in their college. So talagang ang laking moral, di ba, parang downer for them, moral downer for them. So I guess that's where we at, and that's what we're trying to get them engaged back in, di ba? Yung bumalik kayo sa Pilipinas, di ba? We have our own problems here. Tayo hindi pa nga tayo nakakalagpas sa I guess sa mga problema natin. So do not give up on the country kasi parang para sa kanila, di ba? They're looking now at what's happening overseas and they feel the optimism there. But here we're still stuck in the mire, ika nga. So I'm glad that you're still there, Atom. Yeah.
2 issues we'll try to ask. Number 1, yun nga, COVID response. How do you think, yun nga, parang sabi ko nga, we're number 79. We're ranked 79 among 98 nations. Then sa COVID response effectivity, no? So, Ma'am Carol, how could we have performed better? Or parang, paano? Kasi naka-envelope ng COVID response, yung reality ng COVID, yung mga ginawa nga sa UUP, sa ABS-CBN, yung anti-terror bill at lahat. So, paano tayo makakalabas, makakaalagwa, or yun, matatranscend yung ganitong problema?
I think merong pagsusuri na hindi lang sa Pilipinas, kung hindi sa maraming bansa na merong mga authoritarian governments or undemocratic governments, talagang there is a taking advantage of the situation of the pandemic, especially yung lockdowns, yung restrictions sa gatherings, and of course that extends to mass mobilizations or protests. Were taken advantage of by those in power to tamp down on dissent, on opposition. Ako ang tingin ko yung problema natin dun sa COVID response, may aspect ng incompetence, may aspect ng the wrong people are in charge, yung militarist response to a health emergency, and then yung problema talaga ng dinulot na para sa maraming Pilipino, mas malaking problema sa kanila ngayon yung economic dislocation. Dahil sa, it started out mabagal mag-impose ng travel restrictions when the pandemic was starting. Ang daming nakapasok na mga Chinese na tourists and workers, including illegal tourists and illegal workers. And then, nung nandyan na nga, nag-impose ng isang Luzon-wide na lockdown na talagang tumigil talaga ang mundo, hindi ba?
Yeah. Yun yung documentary ni Atom na tumigil yung mundo.
Oh yes, yeah.
Pero ito, sabi nga, the economy shrunk to 9.5% in 2020 with the quarantine restrictions. Pero sa personal niyong pamumuhay, ma'am, paano niyo nararamdaman ito? Ilapit natin sa karanasan niyo. Isa ba kayo dun sa nagrereklamo sa taas ng presyo ng kunyari ng bigas o ng ng vegetable? Saan nyo nararamdaman yung economic crunch sa sitwasyon po nyo?
Eh, kasi may edad na kami, no? So hindi kami masyadong kumakain na madami na ngayon. So yung pamamalengke ko at saka pag-grocery talagang konti na lang, ano.
Konti
Pero
na lang.
pero nakaka-scandalize, you know. Bibili ka ng sibuyas,
Yes
bibili
po.
ka ng bawang, bibili ka ng repolyo, no. Talagang the first thing that comes to my mind is paano na yung ibang tao? How do
Totoo.
they survive?
Totoo.
How do they meet their nutritional requirements, no? And talagang ang problema patong-patong, meron pang Asian yung swine flu, patong-patong na
African swine
talaga.
flu. African swine flu.
African swine flu. Yeah.
Okay.
So and then yung mga bagyo na naapekto yung agriculture, no? And the agricultural sector is still trying to recover. So isipin mo na lang talaga mas maraming kawawa actually.
That's true.
Kaya it's not for you to complain actually.
Atom, ano yung tama sa'yo nung COVID? Sabi mo hindi ka makatulog. Dahil sa okay.
Well, I mean, I don't think what I experienced is any different from many of us. In fact, those of us who still have work, still have a place to stay, who are not sick,
Yes.
we are the lucky ones, diba? We are talking about a unprecedented contraction of our economy. Millions of people have lost their jobs. People are still getting sick by the thousands every day, and there's no end in sight. Wala pa kasing vaccine wala pang malinaw na rollout plan ng vaccine.
Yes.
Even though some of our neighbors already starting their own program, no? I think to me, I will survive it. I'll survive. Unless malasin ako, I get sick kasi hindi mo naman nakikita, no? Kahit na anong precaution ang gawin mo, lumalabas ako ng bahay, kailangan kong lumabas, it's for my job. Unless tamaan ako ng virus, and then for some reason, even though I'm relatively fit, magkaroon ng some complication, I'll be okay. Pero the thing is, yun nga ang problema kasi yung fortunes ko ay tied up sa fortunes ng milyon-milyon pa nating kababayan habang tumatagal yung lockdown, mas mahirap para sa ating lahat. Habang hindi nakakapagtrabaho yung mga tao, habang walang mga trabaho to begin with, bagsak yung ekonomiya natin, and that's bad for everyone, regardless if you're critical of the government response or not.
Correct. But ma'am, ito nga sabi ni Jet Valle na kaibigan namin, sabi tinalo pa tayo ng Rwanda sa pandemic response, no? So parang yun, sa tingin niyo ma'am, sa pagdating yung rollout nga ng vaccine, ano yung inaabatan ano yung inaabangan niyo po yun? Or are you so excited about the vaccine rollout dito sa Pilipinas? At ano po, paano pag hinatag po yan sa inyo, dali-dali niyo po bang tatanggapin yan galing sa gobyerno?
Before I answer that, I'd just like to point out talaga na yung isang disadvantage ng Pilipinas, we used to have a facility for manufacturing vaccines, which was phased out. Which was phased out some decades ago. Tapos yung lugar kung saan ginagawa yung vaccines yan, binenta yan. It was commercialized, so it was sold. Kung saan ngayon ang yung bandang south, yung mga festival malls, etc.
Okay.
So other countries like, let's say, India, they may not have the research, hindi sila ang gumawa ng research sa vaccine, pero they can tie up with a company that did the research and has a vaccine that's already been certified na safe and efficacious. Silang gagawa. So hindi sila nakaasa sa ibang bansa dun sa manufacturer. Ang problema, nakaasa tayo lahat sa labas eh. And with the whole world wanting the vaccine and with countries na mas mayaman sa atin, ready mag-advance ng pera para makapag-reserba sila, talagang nasa dulo tayo, no?
Correct.
Ngayon, ang problema rin talaga, there's been such medyo maiksi yung panahon para dun sa research sa vaccine, eh, no? So there's a real question about safety.
Yes.
And yet, this is all, ano yan eh, risk versus benefit yan eh, no? You just have to weigh the risk versus the benefit, whether on an individual or personal level or at the level of the country, no? So I think that a vaccination program is important.
Yeah.
It's crucial. But at the same time, importante pa rin yung iba pang mga ginagawa para protektahan yung public health. And most important of all, we have to finally come to terms with the fact na sa mahabang panahon, dekada na yan, bulok na yung public healthcare system natin.
That's true.
No? And it's for people who can afford. We have a fairly good standard of private healthcare. Pero with a pandemic like COVID, hindi yan masasagot ng private hospital at saka private health insurance.
Nakita yung kakulangan niya.
So yung propaganda na pagka nagkaroon ng vaccine, it's like a silver bullet na lahat ng problema natin matatapos. Hindi totoo yan. At saka, just as with the testing, no, na it took more than 6 months for the president himself to say na, importante pala yung mass testing, ano. Ito yung vaccine, ano. I've seen the plan of the DOH. I joined the town hall meeting. Napaka detalyado, ang ganda-ganda ng plano nila. At the end of the day, ano ang talagang nangyayari on the ground? Like, who gets prioritized? At sinusunod ba talaga yung process ng pagbigay ng emergency use authorization? Bakit may mga nakakapasok ng illegal? Bakit may mga nauuna? And then how do you deal with the problem that many people really are afraid or skeptical, or because scientific information and education is so weak, people really are not in a position to get reliable information on which they can base their individual decision kung magpapabakuna sila o hindi. So sapin-sapin ang problema talaga.
Sige, ma'am. At yun sinasabi, well, sundutin ko na rin at na ang sabi, yun nga, kunyari yung closure ng ABS-CBN, yung nangyari sa COVID, yung nangyayari ngayon sa UP. Ang sabi ng mga tao, sige, kita-kita tayo sa 2022. Pero yun nga, yun pa rin ba po yung arena ng pagbabago na tinitingnan natin? Kasi as of now, kita natin, no, wala pa yung sa registration pa lang ng voters, wala pa rin yung gusto nating mangyari na at least 3 million na new voters. Diba? So, do you still see that as a venue for struggle or as a paraan para mabago yung mga sabi nga ni Cholo kanina, pag tingin mo sa states, sa US, nabago na nila yung realidad nila. Pero dito parang sapin-sapin yung mga problema at nabubulag tayo sa iba't ibang problema, hindi natin alam, mas malaki pang dapat paghandaan.
Ato.
Okay.
Ay, nako. Bakit pinasa mo pa sa akin? I mean, syempre, andyan yung election. It is, ostensibly that is how democracies work, right? Meron tayong kakayahan na pumili kung sino yung mga iluluklok natin sa kapangyarihan. So, if the administration is performed very, very poorly, then we choose a different set of leaders in the next round of elections. But I mean, the experience of the Filipino people is that very little changes during elections. Whether we elect a president from Mindanao, whether we elect a president who comes from a political family, whether they are part of the elite, no, mga part ng mga big business,
Mhm.
the one thing remains the same. They're all part of the same group,
Mhm.
who have been basically
Running the country.
running the country for years, for decades, for hundreds of years. Kasi tama, no? Umabot na tayo ng 100 kung kasama yung 2020 na. So by 1920, meron na tayong sariling gobyerno nun. So I'm not knocking the hope that we place on, on getting some semblance of change during the election. And I do encourage people to register to vote, even, lalo na yung mga kabataan. I think si ang Comelec, no, si Commissioner Guanzon, na ang
Mhm.
ingay na niya sa Twitter, parang register to vote. So yeah, by all means, in fact,
Mhm.
that is your democratic right.
Mhm.
Pero I think it is also kind of foolhardy to place all of your hope into that basket. Only because if you look at our experience, hindi naman talaga ganun kasimple yun.
Mhm.
In fact, the elections is ano lang yun eh, isa lang yun eh.
Yeah.
Marami sa mga changes, na mga significant changes na nakikita natin, hindi naman nakuha dahil sa election eh.
Yeah.
Dahil pa rin sa popular movements.
Yeah.
So whether or not there is an election, there is that space to continue educating people, continue convincing them to find their power, not just through the ballot but also by participating in mass movements, I suppose.
Galing. But I have to recognize the two ladies now who joined us. Una, yung new voter, I hope new voter sa darating ng election, si Max Cruz. Max will ask you questions. Tapos isang naghihintay, buti nahintay mo sa Atom. Sabi niya magli-lipstick daw siya para sa'yo, si Mir. Si Mir de Santos na yon, nandito siya mamaya para magtanong. Ma'am, let's just answer the question. Since marami nang nangyari doon sa grupo niyo sa bayan, di ba? Parang sinira-siraan at lahat. Are you still looking at the elections as a ground para yon makakuha ng suporta sa mga tao at pagbabago?
Alam mo, yung puntahan ko lang yung nangyari sa States, ha?
Yes.
Kasi meron kaming mga kamag-anak doon, including in-laws who are Americans, ibig sabihin hindi migrants, no?
Mhm.
And two things struck me. Sabi na ang importante was to get the voters against Trump, yung Democrats, to go out and vote.
Mhm.
Hindi na so much trying to get Republicans to vote for Democrats, kundi getting their base, their electoral base to go out and vote, because for the longest time mababa ang participation ng electorate sa US. It's always less than 50%. Hindi kagaya dito. Siguro dahil dito may vote buying, ano?
Okay.
Pero liban doon, there is a senator who ran for president for the Democrat nomination, si Bernie Sanders,
Mhm.
who has a very progressive platform, it's a leftist platform. And hindi naman siya nananalo. He didn't get the Democratic nomination, so hindi siya ang nakalaban ni Trump.
Mhm.
But ang sabi nila,
po siya.
ha?
Nasa meme naman po siya. Nasa frame nyo actually siya ngayon.
Oo, ang ibig ko sabihin, yung pagtakbo niya, he brought to national attention yung agenda ng progressive platform. Pero ang strategy daw nila, they are trying to develop the base sa ground, and they're trying to elect people at the state level, at representatives in Congress. Hindi pa so much trying to get the presidency eh. Kasi that's medyo tall order yun eh, no? So building the base, ganun din dito.
Okay.
The odds are so stacked against candidates who are not from the elite, not from political dynasties, who are not basically interested in maintaining the status quo, no? The odds are so stacked. Pera, prominence, machinery, yung pagkakapwesto sa gobyerno, nagagamit yung gobyerno para mangampanya, nagagamit ang militar para makakuha ng boto, etc. So anong pang-kontra doon? It's building your mass base. Yung
Okay.
sinasabi ni Atom na popular movements. Halimbawa, the Makabayan Coalition, Bayan Muna, Gabriela, Kabataan Party List, etc.
Mm.
Hindi naman mananalo yan eh. Nasa party list system, which is it's like running for the Senate in a way, no? But the rules are different. If you don't have a mass constituency
That's true.
of a national of nationwide level, nationwide scale. So
Yeah.
nung last elections, talagang ginawa lahat. They threw the kitchen sink at the Makabayan Coalition. Inaaresto yung mga campaigners, kinakasuhan, yung mga baryo na nanalo dati, tinatakot ang mga tao na wag bumoto. At syempre walang pera, no? Na hindi makapaglagay ng advertisement sa TV or radio. So talagang tall order talaga just to win, and yet Bayan Muna was the one that got the highest number of votes among the party list. So we will not concede the electoral arena despite the odds stacked against candidates from the working people, ordinary people, despite all the institutional obstacles to winning. Hindi bibitiwan yung pagtakbo
Okay.
sa eleksyon. Siguro lang kailangan ng maayos na strategy and tactics, what to aim for and how to get to win. No? Kasi at the end of the day, ang sukatan talaga diyan kung may naipanalo ka. Pero part ng panalo doon is in the process of campaigning, you build your base.
That's true.
And it's not just an electoral base. It's not just a base that gets activated to vote. It's a base that all throughout the year, nandyan yan para suportahan yung mga maayos na mga legislative initiatives. Nandyan yan na sumusuporta pag ginalabanan mo yung such a thing as the terror law. When you're fighting for human rights, meron kang maaasahan na a critical mass of people who will rally behind you, no? At hindi yan lang rally sa kalsada, no? Rally in so many ways, on social media, in schools, in factories, in the rural areas, no? So magka-complement yon, pero as I agree with Atom, it would be foolhardy to put all your eggs in one basket. Mananaginip ka na magpapatakbo ka ng matinong kandidato importante yun, yung mahusay yung kandidato mo, okay ka na, mananalo ka na. Hindi, that's not the way it works. You really have to develop the base, and then you have to fight daya. Kasi talamak dito ang pandaraya. Ngayon, sa US, yung panalo ni Biden over Trump, it wasn't so much a pro-Biden vote, it was an anti-Trump vote. And the people mobilized not just to vote. They campaigned, nag-house to house sila, nag-phone in call sila, nag-fundraising sila. And yung nakikita nating panalo ni Biden ng Democrats is the product of grassroots organizing that continues even after Biden has won, because Biden is also from the elite. Hindi mo naman pwedeng basta asahan yan to bring about wide-ranging fundamental reforms in American society. Laki-laki ng problema ng American society, kahit na yung COVID problem nila, mas malakta kaysa sa atin.
Totoo rin naman. Pero magagalit lang si Atom at tatanong ko sa inyo to kasi napag-usapan namin to. Ma'am, would you be open to the possibility of running for Bayan?
Matagal na akong iniimbita, inaaya. Una-una, I'm not very healthy. I have health issues. Pangalawa, wala akong disposisyon. I don't have, hindi mahaba yung tolerance ko, yung PC ko doon sa shenanigans at saka yung plastikan diyan sa Congress. Masyado akong outspoken at saka masyado akong prangkang tao Baka makaaway lang ako doon.
Your son read you right. So, yun po yung sabi niya sa akin. But I just had to hear
Baka
it.
siya.
Naku po, isang malaking pagtatalo rin namin po yan. Pero, well, ibang tanong na lang. Si Max na pinakabata sa grupo na bagong voter yan, eventually will ask questions. Go, Max.
Hello, good afternoon. So first, this is for Atom. So I know that you're a UN Goodwill Ambassador. How has the pandemic affected your work for that?
Well, I think more than my work specifically for the UNHCR, it's really the work of our humanitarian workers on the ground that was affected by the pandemic. Kasi mahalaga sa trabaho ng mga UNHCR staff yung pagpunta sa mga communities, yung mga displaced, yung mga internally displaced na tinatawag natin. And unfortunately, because of the pandemic, that was really limited. Lumiit yung mga chances, no? May time pa nga na tumigil talaga. But at the same time, they were able to kind of refocus their efforts on things that can be done remotely, including encouraging more people to donate actually to the UNHCR dahil sa yung yung funds na nakukuha natin sa Pilipinas, hindi lamang mga Pilipino ang nakikinabang, kundi mga refugees sa ibang mga bansa, and they are in constant need of life-saving aid, no? Especially the refugee problem is actually a growing problem, and I think even though the UNHCR traditionally has focused on displacement caused by conflict, by persecution, by war, and by natural disasters, they are increasingly recognizing that climate change also plays a part in the massive displacement of people. And we see that growing worse, unfortunately, year after year. We've seen a record number of refugees displaced in 2019, and I'm sure in 2020. I haven't seen the actual figures for 2020. So the work continues. Even though nabawasan yung pagkakataon natin to go to communities, hindi natatapos yung trabaho. Ang nangyari sa akin marami sa work na ginagawa ko kasi ano lang naman ako hindi naman ako staff, no? So primarily my job is to spread the word, and a lot of the things that I did from home. Even the meetings and the all of the I was able to meet some of the goodwill ambassadors from other countries, some of them quite popular, no, mga idol ko rin. That was siguro kung meron mang silver lining yan, tingin ko hindi mangyayari yon hindi mangyayari yon kung hindi nagkaroon ng pandemic, kasi biglang all of a sudden ba't nga ba hindi tayo mag-Zoom lahat, lahat naman tayo ito na yung ginagawa.
Galing. Max?
Thank you. Okay, again, this time for Ma'am Carol. So a while ago it was mentioned you were a doctor. So had you been in charge of handling the COVID-19 pandemic, what is one thing you would have done differently or would do differently?
Importante ang leadership. Importante na ang namumuno doon sa pandemic response is our scientists, science-based professionals who have the experience for this thing and who are given the wide latitude and authority to do what needs to be done without the pakikialam ng mga political interest or even yung national security interests, no? Yun ang mahalaga and that has not happened so far. And also the wherewithals. Dapat bigyan ng sufficienting pondo and resources so that they can commandeer and orchestrate a comprehensive response.
Now we have Mir na nag-lipstick na Ma'am Carol, si Manay Judy Tugiwalo nag-text sa akin, sabi no to red tagging kasi kinunan na po niya yung mobilization ngayon. May picture siyang studenta. Sabi niya yes to red lipstick. Hindi niya alam kung naka-red lipstick daw po kayo ngayon.
I try.
So Mir, go, shoot your question.
Yes, good afternoon po. I'm sorry I missed the earlier part of this interview. I came from another meeting, but I'm glad to be here and I've been listening into your discussions. I think you're pointing out some very interesting and very insightful ideas and suggestions. So yung tanong ko po sa inyong dalawa, Sir Atom and Ma'am Carol, is parang if you had a message to your colleagues in your respective fields, what do you want to say to them? How do you think they can make a difference using their own specialization, their field during this time?
You first, Atom.
Nagko-command yung
Well,
mommy talaga. Okay, go.
I mean, if we're talking about colleagues in the media industry, I think it's kind of presumptuous of me to give them, you know, tips or suggestions. It's a very vibrant community, and a lot of them are also uh, very aware of the challenges that the whole industry faces, specifically um, uh, yung threats to media freedom and also massive disinformation online. Um, I mean, what I would say, I guess, is I mean, siguro I think I'm more comfortable talking to people in my generation rather than
Mhm.
my friends and my colleagues in the industry. Ang tingin ko yung kinakaharap natin ngayon are very specific challenges eh. And even though um, we always kind of rely on the wisdom of earlier generations, fight na natin to eh. It's important for us to uh, be able to find how our skills and our talents can better serve a wider public. And I know that during this time, it might be difficult to see our place in the world, and well, not even in the world, kahit sa Pilipinas lang.
Mhm.
Pero we have our own responsibilities. I'll focus on this information
Mhm.
to narrow down really what I'm trying to say. Nowadays, it's not really just the job of journalists
Mhm.
to to talk about the truth, to ferret out the truth. Kasi yung ginagawa ng mga professional journalists, ginagawa na rin yan ng lahat ng tao eh. Shorthand version, when we log on, we have to verify if what we are reading or watching is the truth. We have to make a quick decision based on what we see, whether or not to react or to share.
Mhm.
And it is also incumbent upon us to have responsibilities as well. Kapag meron kang maling nailagay o na-post, kailangan handa ka na i-correct. Kailangan handa ka na i-delete kung kinakailangan. At lahat ng yon, actually, that is precisely what we do in the media. So, hindi na tapos na yung panahon na sasabihin natin na trabaho ng media lang yun. Trabaho na natin lahat yun eh. And given the mechanism by which this information spreads, I think it's a very, very big problem. And it's only going to get worse with with the constant, ang bilis kasi mag-evolve ng technology. It's hard to keep up. And it's going to be a constant struggle. But especially the younger generation, even younger than my generation, na talagang lumaki na sa internet, lumaki na sa social media, yun ang magiging struggle ninyo eh. So I think it's important to find your anchor. Saan manggagaling yung kumbaga kanina na pag-usapan na first part of the program, saan manggagaling yung activismo ninyo, natin, para meron tayong guide on how to use our idealism for the changes that we want to see.
Mhm. Mir, you have more questions or
I'd like to request Ma'am Carol to
Ma'am.
answer the
Yeah.
same question. If she had a
Colleague.
message to her colleagues in the field.
Colleagues yan, mga aktivista rin eh. Ano bang...
Or ma'am, yung sinasabi natin kanina na napaso or yung mga na-burn out ng mga aktivista rin.
Siguro sa mga mas bata, ako
Or
gusto
sa
marinig
mga
yan.
mas bata o yung mga nasa
Younger generation.
Yeah, go.
Meron na akong isang gustong ipaabot dun sa aking mga kapwa-doktor.
Okay.
Lalo na yung mga practicing. Kasi hindi na ako practicing eh. Siguro ang tinuturo sa atin nitong karanasan dito sa pandemya ay a lot of the decisions and policies about how to deal with health crisis are made by politicians.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, yung usual attitude ng mga nasa health professions na apolitical, you know. So
Mhm.
they think as long as they are they have integrity in their profession and ginagawa nila yung trabaho nila bilang doktor, naalagaan nila ang pasyente nila, etc., okay na sila. Hindi. Marami sa yung pagharap sa sakit at pag-ensure na malusog ang mga pasyente natin, malaki ang kinalaman diyan nung kalusugan nung socio-economic determinants of health, no? That we cannot afford to overlook or turn a blind eye to. So sa mga doktor at mga gusto maging doktor, mga nurse, mga iba't ibang health professionals, I enjoin you to have an activist open-mindedness to see how many other factors impinge on our work as health professionals, you know, and that we need to exert influence over those factors. Doon naman sa mga kabataan, ang tama si Atom kayo na ang tagapagmana ng Pilipinas, ng kinabukasan ng mundo. Kaya it's really all more up to you what happens. And at the rate our country is going into deeper and deeper crisis, you cannot afford to be bystanders.
Yeah.
You cannot afford to just focus on your social media, on yourselves, on your
Okay.
ang kinabukasan nyo ang nakasalang dyan eh. So importante talaga na maging mapanuri, maging look after the truth, stay informed, look for independent sources of reliable information, magbasa kayo, matuto kayong magsuri, mag-aral kayong maging critical thinkers, and then when you come to a point that you think you have a pretty good idea about what's wrong in this society, just as you come to a point where you analyze what's wrong with your life, diba?
Yes.
Decide to make a difference.
That's true.
Decide to make a difference.
May pagtatalaban yung personal, pamilya, komunidad, bansa, at saka yung mas malaki pa yung mundo. Max, you shoot your last questions.
Okay, so this is for both the mother and son. When do you see each other most happy?
Wow.
Siguro no, parang Atom on your mom. Kailan mo alam na masaya yung mom mo? Kailan siya?
Okay. Madali pala sagutin to. Pag nakikita yung mga apo niya.
Okay. Okay. Mom, kayo po. Si Atom, kailan siya pinakamasaya na nakita niyo?
Pinakamasaya?
Kailan siya nasisiyahan? Kailan yung alam na masaya niyo?
Curious ako kung ano sagot ni Mama dito.
Okay.
Hindi ko rin alam eh.
Pagkalaro niya yung mga pamangkin niya.
Oo rin naman yon.
Ganon.
Oo.
Or nakakakita
Kasi parang nawawala yung yung all expectations, lahat ng facade, lahat ng basta you have to just be an uncle who your nephews appreciate.
Yeah, you just have to be present.
Yeah.
That's true. Max, more?
So conversely, when have you seen each other most sad?
Wow.
Different emotions, no?
Yes, different emotions.
Kailan mo?
Ikaw, Atom.
Ang hirap sagutin eh. Loss. When we lose important people in our lives. Si Mama's generation, her friends, family. may mga nauna na eh. So that's always a difficult time. I mean, even if we don't talk about it at length, alam ko how hard it is for them.
Ma'am, kayo po, kay Atom.
Kaya ito.
Kailan nyo
Oh, I've seen him kind of down pagka may pinoproblema siya na hindi niya alam paano niya aayusin. That includes love life.
Okay. Love life, and then he asks you, lalo na important things, di ba? Well, crucial things.
Not
I try to
very
keep it to a
often.
minimum.
Not very often kasi palagay ko medyo kinakabahan yan kung ano yung sasabihin ko eh.
You have more emotions there, Max? Maganda yata to. Okay, go.
Yes, I do actually. So, on a lighter note, when have you a funny moment you both shared?
Okay, that's
Funny moment.
Of our interaction nowadays is with my nephews eh.
So,
I mean, my two pamangkins, they say the darndest things, and ano na eh, our family life revolves around those two, I think, mostly.
ma'am, kayo po, yung masayang moment in Adam. Actually, nakita ko silang mag-ama. Grabe rin ho silang mag-alaskahan.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oo. Kasi between his father and me, I'm the more serious one eh. You know? Mas may sense of humor yung tatay nila eh. And he has a really funny sense of humor, and you would think na ako yung political, no? Ako yung activist, etc. Pero ang magugulat ka, his father is really a very good sounding board kasi he has a way of cutting through the BS eh, you know?
True.
May nangyayari, may mga balita, and then magbibigay siya ng comment na parang magugulat ako na, oo nga yun. Ano, I mean, halimbawa, yung gusto pumasok ng militar sa UP, bakit? Pumasa ba sila?
That's her dad, Atom.
He really, so masaya kami, and also kasi nagbibiroan kami about sino yung nanligaw kanino, you know, that sort of thing.
Ako, dilemma din ni Atom yan.
Sino yung tumatanda na, sino yung makakalimutin, sino yung masungit, and then nagtatawanan na lang kami. I don't know, I think Atom sees that once in a while.
You do, no? Tama? Yeah. Okay, last na. Last
Okay.
emotions on Max. Go.
Okay, last. Most sentimental moment or time you made each other feel the most loved?
Ang hirap naman ito.
Ba pag emotion?
Kasi hindi kami sentimental eh, you know?
Oo,
We're not a sentimental family.
Naku, pinost ko yung isa. No, I was happy when I saw your picture. I posted it. Nung magkasama kayo sa TOYM. Ma'am, I have to tell you, Atom didn't want to apply there. Ayaw niya yung award na binibigay na ina-applyan. So yun, parang nung nakita ko yung family picture niyo yun, and I made sure it's there in the mga publicity materials. That was one happy moment. Okay. Kasi yun, other things. Go.
Ano yung tanong? Most loved?
Most loved and most sentimental.
Most loved and most sentimental. I don't know. I think maybe for me, ano lang, yung may pagkabanal, ano? Pero parang yung just sitting around at the dinner table and having a conversation, updating each other, I think is one of my favorite family bonding activities.
Okay. Ma'am, kayo po.
Si Atom at sa ako, meron kaming pareho ugali eh, na pagka may iniisip kami, meron kaming workout mentally and
Mhm.
we're preoccupied, medyo masungit kami pag merong nagtatanong na nasisira yung train of thought or whatever. So medyo masungit kami. So kami ng husband ko, pag dumadalaw si Atom and then we know that he's worrying about something or he's on a project na he's preoccupied, may problema, ganon. Tinitignan namin yung body language niya Good
Mhm.
mood ba or bad mood? And then when we come to a consensus na good mood, ay, ang saya-saya namin. Kasi nga, we sit down on the table, usually we either have merienda or supper together. Ang saya-saya ng kwentuhan. Ay, magkakwento siya, anong balita, and then we comment on what's going on, and then nagbibiruan, and it's an affirmation of a closeness that keeps getting reinforced every time it happens,
That's right.
Pero pagka wala sa mood, medyo iwas lang muna kami.
Ma'am, kailangan lang siyang bigyan ng masarap na pagkain at kape. Yan lang umuwi yata. Good mood na yan.
I
Anyway,
try. I'm not the greatest cook, but I try.
okay. Mir, go. Last question, go.
Yes, last question from my end before I go to another meeting and before
Okay.
I pet my cat kasi nagpapaltok yung pusa ko. Okay. But my question for the two of you po, parang kagaya nung kay Max, but it's more of what do you desire for each other and what don't you desire for one another?
Okay. Okay.
I can go first.
Okay, go.
Sige.
It's easy.
It's
Almost every day or every time we say goodbye, I always pray that he will keep safe.
yeah.
No? Kasi ang daming pwedeng mangyari dyan.
That's right.
And then, I really hope I get an apo by him. It's my desire
Okay.
for him and also for me.
Okay naman po, pero sabi niya sa akin hindi requirement. Sabi niya, pero I think pwede naman.
Meron na naman eh.
Lagot.
Meron ka na apo. Meron ka na apo.
Gusto ko girl eh.
Okay. Okay. Tama ikaw.
Ano nga yung tanong? What is my desire? I think for me it's good health for a long time, and I want mom to continue being healthy enough to pursue her activism, and I want her to remain sharp until the day she croaks. I don't want her to lose her mental sharpness kasi
Idol kayo niyan.
ako ang selfish reason dyan ay I want to keep both of them around. I mean, not just my mom, my dad, for as long as we can, and I want to keep mining, that well of wisdom that they both have.
Galing. Thank you, Mir. Thank you, Maxine. Maraming salamat. And now I'll shoot the last question. Thank you. Ma'am, huling tanong kay Ma'am Carol. Bilang doktor, at yun nga, sa anong sakit niyo po mahalin tulad yung sakit ng bayan ngayon at paano sa tingin niyo natin malulunasan?
I think I would agree with our forebears and many other social analysts na nagsasabi na ang sakit ng bayan actually parang cancer eh. And it needs a radical solution to excise the cancer, because pag hindi ginawa yon, walang pupuntahan kundi terminal
Yeah.
mamamatay ang lipunan Pilipino. So, yung activism, radical activism, and maybe for others, it is not a path that they would choose. But for those who opt for armed struggle, who opt to take up arms in order to pursue the aspiration for a more democratic society, a more independent society, a more healthy nation, maintindihan ko yun eh. Kasi for them, hindi na madadaan sa mga band-aid solutions yung problema. Parang tapal-tapal, tapal-tapal. And we owe it to the next generations. Now, we try to solve the problem as substantially and as fundamentally as we can para hindi na natin ipamana sa susunod na henerasyon yung mga matagal ng problema ng bansa.
And those major changes. Ikaw naman, Thomas, bilang personalidad sa media, ano namang balita tungkol sa pagbabago sa lipunan yung gusto mong masaksihan or ma-document bilang journalist, no? At ano dapat yung gagawin natin patungo doon sa tingin mo? What news about our country are you excited about?
I mean, I'm really looking forward to the day that a popular movement led by the youth and by the everyman. When I say everyman, yung mga tahuran, ano, manggagawa, kahit yung mga magsasaka. I look forward to them exerting more influence in the country, whichever form that takes. I just hesitate to say that it has to come in the form of a popular uprising. Kasi
there are a lot of means, no? Yeah.
There are a lot of means, and at the same time, it's not something that you necessarily wish for. It happens when the conditions are ripe, ano? But as a journalist, kung tatanungin kung anong klaseng balita anong klaseng coverage yung you look forward to, it's those kinds of moments kasi those are moments that will usually define a generation. And to be in the middle of that and to experience that, especially in its purest form, pag hindi pa siya contaminated by by different interests when the time comes, kasama sa challenge yan eh. It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling kasi it rekindles your idealism as well, which I think we need from time to time. Sometimes it's in short supply. So that's what I want to, as a journalist, that's what I want to cover. That's what I want to see. Something really, a change, a revolution, if I may, that is has those kinds of characteristics. Hindi yung led by the usual suspects, no? Led by the politicians and interest groups.
Galing, ma'am. Parting words. Just how do you feel hearing your son say those things? Parang, uy, you've done a good job. Huh?
I'll give him an A.
Parang teacher.
No,
So,
I really, I'm really I'm very heartened, and I'm sure so is his dad.
Thomas, ikaw, your mom saying those things and at her age, di ba? Sana ganyan pa rin tayo na yun, we hold the line and well, pinaglalaban pa rin yung mga dati pa nating pinaniniwalaan.
I mean, I this is something I express all the time. I think I lucked out with the kind of upbringing that I have and with the parents that I was, yung raffle something went right upstairs, I
swerte mo.
suppose.
Ang swerte mo.
Kami ng
No,
kapatid ko.
Maraming salamat talaga for spending this time. Sabi ko yun, bihirang mangyari, pero yun, nangyari ngayon. We'll end because of course, sabi ko nga sa inyo, sa taga-academe or mga estudyante at mga guro, yung audience natin, karamihan. And I'll make you get yung CP nung kay Lol Hati Bautista na tula. Kasi doon tayo nagtatapos palagi dito. Basahin lang natin yung dalawang tula ni Lol Hati Bautista. I'll start it, no? So, yung sinabi, madaling araw ni Lol Hati Bautista, minsan ay ikinukulong tayo ng mga may hawak ng renda ng bayan para di natin makita ang pagpupunla ng kamatayan ni marinig ang tungayaw ng baliw sa kalaliman ng gabi.
Minsan, ikinukulong natin ang sarili upang mas makita natin ang lipunan. Hindi gamit ang mga mata, kundi ang puso, at marinig sa katahimikan ang tinig ng pagkakaisa.
At habang binabalangkas natin ang pagbangon ng bukang liwayway, gumuguhit tayo ng mga pangarap, naglalakbay patungong umaga, sumusulat ng mga tula ng pag-ibig, nagpipinta ng pag-asa.
Tapos yung ikalawang tula niya, At Bayan, Noon at Ngayon, Lol Hati Bautista. Ang Carol.
May pahina ng kasaysayang kinasusulatan na sa panig na ito ng daigdig, tayo man ay may tinig, tumitindig, lumalaban, kapalit man ay piitan o libingan, ang mahalagay kasal sa paninindigan.
At kaya nating ipagyabang na sa ilalim ng ating balat, tulad ng lahat, dumadaloy din ang ating ugat, ang dugo ng sangkatauhan.
Maraming salamat at magkikita pa rin po tayo kung saan man, sa eskwelahan, sa kalsada, sa dasal. Yun po siguro yung mahalaga. So, I hope this was a painless exercise. Thank you po, Ma'am Carol. Last words from you.
Thank you for inviting us. It was quite enjoyable.
Quite enjoyable and thank you. Yeah, you really made sense. Yun yung takot nyo na baka paikot-ikot lang. Marami po kaming natutunan sa'yo. Tomats, maraming salamat for doing this.
Thank you. I'll see you soon.
Thank you, boss. Sabi nga, maraming paraan ng aktivismo, pero iisang prinsipyo, ang pakikisangkot para mabago ang lipunan. Sa ikagiginhawa ng lahat at di lang ng iilan. At yan yung patuloy nating ipaglalaban. We'll continue leveling up. Maraming salamat po at magkita-kita tayo muli. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Tomats.
Thank you.
Thank you, Max, and thank you, Mir.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Maraming salamat. Salamat, Tomats.
Thank you.
So how was your briefing yesterday?
Ngayon mo na kailangan ng totoong pagbabago. Wag mo na kayang palakasin, wag na wag mo na kayang palakasin, wag na wag mo na kayang patagalin. Tenanaw mo na gawin mo na.
Di kailanman mapipigilan pagbuhos ng ulan. Ang buhay sadyang ganyan.
At kaya ng papago-pagong pag-ihip ng hangin. Lahat ay lilipas at magsasalita.
Huwag kang mabahala, huwag mataranta. Hindi kailangan ang mag-alilangan pa.
Isipin mo laging nandito lamang ang aking balikat, sa'yo'y nakaabang.
Asahan mo, hindi ka iiwan sa mundo. Lahat may hangganan, asahan mo. Wala nang atrasan sa iyong bawat hakbang na pupuntahan. Pangako kailanman agad akong nandyan. Sang tawag mo
tuwing nagdidilim ang langit, di ba't nagpapakita ang buwan hanggang mag-umaga na naman.
Tara't hintayin na natin
sikat ng iyong araw
hanggang sa magliwanag muli ang lahat.
Asahan mo, hindi ka iiwan sa mundo. Lahat may hangganan, asahan mo. Wala nang atrasan sa iyong bawat hakbang na pupuntahan. Pangako kailanman agad akong nandyan. Sang tawag mo asahan mo, hindi ka iiwan sa mundo. Lahat may hangganan, asahan mo. Wala nang atrasan sa iyong bawat hakbang na pupuntahan. Pangako kailanman agad akong nandyan. Sang tawag mo sang tawag